We are live now. Welcome, Aini Living Conversations. That's what this used to be called. We are now shifting to Owl Teachings, Owl
Freedom.
um, Freedom Teachings, because we focus a lot. Everything that we share here has to do with how you can become more free. That's one of our biggest words, freedom. But there's a lot of aspects about freedom, and one of the aspects that we've been covering is pleasure and our how moving away from pleasure. And I even saw Naranjo, this Chilean psychologist, say, just put it very plainly, very simple. It says we've been domesticated into preferring duty over pleasure.
Yes. Yeah.
Not preferring, into thinking that the purpose of life is not pleasure, it's duty.
Or yeah. Yeah.
and and that's what has taken us away from the pleasure principle. Is that what we're going to talk about today? That's today's subject, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to continue on for a little bit with the energies of heaven and earth that we talked about last week, but it's all part of the pleasure principle.
Mhm.
But before I get into that, I said last week we're going to continue on this subject for weeks because we need to address it. So what was I led to on YouTube but this East Indian woman, Seema Anand, and she has spent 20 to 30 years decoding the Kama Sutra. Now, I was introduced to the Kama Sutra by my first husband, and it was a thing of products. There were to buy that he was really into, and positions. So that's all I knew about the Kama Sutra. So I have known as I married him when I was.
Why do they think that it's just about positions? I started reading the Kama Sutra many years ago, and I didn't get through the part where it says, well, if you want to, first you got to find a partner. So the partner has to be a good Kama Sutra partner. It was like addressing the man. She has to have all these things, the skills. And it was a list of more than 20 things that she needed to master in order to be a good, like an eligible partner. I'm like, well, I don't know a woman that knows one of these things, but a single one of these things. Because it was like knowing how to play this game, knowing how to do the art of whatever, all these arts, very intricate, but it shows that it's not just about positions. It's about being very thorough and very very what
pleasure.
Yeah, and finding pleasure in a lot of things, not just penetration.
Yes. And actually, what she says is the Kama Sutra is divided into 7 sections. And one section, the first section, tells the man how to build the house and how many beds should be in each room, because there should be a bed for foreplay, there should be a bed for sex, and there should be a bed for sleeping, because each bed has its own energy. And I like that. I really like that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so then each bed is shaped differently, right? To accommodate. So, and then she also was saying that going further into it, that the women, that both the men, the Kama Sutra was written for men and women of leisure, specifically for men, because the Hindu religion is very patriarchal, right? For wealthy men of leisure. And they needed, there were 64 skills they needed to have to be a good lover.
Yeah, it's like man, just I'll focus on that first before reading on further.
So. Well, I find that interesting that it ties with the 64 hexagrams and the 64 codons, right?
Okay.
We're not going any deeper with that, but that she was saying that it also teaches that the girls that were taught under the Kama Sutra, that men and women were both taught with the Kama Sutra how to fully experience pleasure and make love. And so she said it was taught to the girls that positioning was all about jewelry. Like there's a waist belt with bells on it. And the point of that was for the woman when she's on top to not have the bells ring, because if the bells are ringing, that means she's doing porno, which is the up and down bouncing.
Okay.
The whole idea of not having the chimes on that garter belt ring was that it's all rotational because there are 22 G spots in the vagina. And you don't hit a single one of those G spots with the piston penetration we know of from, and then from porno, which is all which we've all been gotten our sex education from porno. And then add to that the long dangling earrings that would swing. And that would also induce pleasure due to the rhythm, due to the hip rotation, due to that, and not just so we have a lot to learn. We really have a lot to learn about sex.
Yeah. And this is going to teach us.
That's why I said we're going to spend weeks on this, because we have to get, for us to come out of this world of misery imposition that we've been living in, and piston-like sex, shall I say. We've got to take time. We've got to all desire to become men and women of leisure. Balance leisure and work, so that we no longer have this hierarchy of the class of leisure and the class of workers who provide us our leisure.
Wow.
So when the energies of heaven and earth flow smoothly through the body, love and sexuality bring joy and happiness into our lives. The important point in satisfying sex is deep, gentle, but strong stimulation of the body and the mind. And although diet can be a cause of most sexual problems, there are other aspects of the modern life that also contribute to sexual issues. Number one, the material used in our homes has a subtle and real effect on our body's energy flow. Wood permits the forces of heaven and earth to stream more freely through the inside of the house, energizing and vitalizing the body, while metal and concrete block its natural flow. And what are cities made of? Metal and concrete.
Makeshift green cotton string was given to it.
So not only do steel and concrete isolate us from the weather, they also cut us off from the flow of natural energy. Number two, the fabrics we wear also affect our sexuality. Natural fabrics like cotton allow our skin to breathe and exchange energy freely with the outside, while synthetics block the body's uptake and flow of energy. And you practically can't find any clothes that are not synthetic now.
Yeah.
They make us feel tired and they diminish our sexual vitality. Also, the way each person eats determines the quality of his or her sexual energies and abilities. Since food creates our biological energy and quality, it's important for couples to eat together and to eat good quality food. In this way, they establish a similar biological direction while keeping up their health. And that really kind of resonates, because as soon as we became a two-income family, there were, the husband and wife are going two different directions. Divorce came about not because of I don't want to be together with you anymore. It's because biologically, when you think about it like this, it's like biologically you make it impossible to be together. Because eating together, eating good quality food together, again, good quality food, right? You have to be rich in America to eat good quality food. All the food stamp people, all they get is processed food. That's all that they can afford. So it makes it much easier to develop clear and open communication and shared intuition and common sense. So from this foundation, a couple's lovemaking can develop from physical to the mental and spiritual levels, enabling them to grow together. And just that little bit alone can show us how our modern lifestyle just totally disrupts that part of. So there's 2 principles for eating that can help a couple achieve sexual happiness. The first is eating for compatibility. Unless a couple eats together often and shares a similar quality of food, they may become so unlike each other that communication and understanding become difficult and separation will result. Yeah, I mean, that just makes sense. Husband and wife living together in the same house, living a totally different life.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not separate?
That happens, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then the second would be to eat for attraction. Between men and women, there should be some small differences in diet in order to strengthen that polarity between us. This is what we need to, this is what I've really been, like I told you, been focusing on with the I Ching, is the polarity. Polarity, it's not just the hexagram, it's the polarity of the hexagram.
Mm-hmm.
To accentuate his conductivity to heaven's force, a man could eat a higher volume of animal food and yang vegetables, because the male body is more hard and compact than the female body, and it contains a higher portion of muscle and bone. So yang food would help strengthen his masculine quality. However, overconsumption of animal protein makes ejaculatory control more difficult to achieve, because animal foods accelerate the production of testosterone. And this yang hormone creates sexual tension and the desire for release. Too much protein can also accelerate sperm production, further adding to sexual tension. So, and another effect of the overconsumption of animal foods is to decrease the sensitivity of the skin, and so reduce one's sensitivity to the environment, including the needs of one's partner. Growing up means awareness of and consideration for the needs of people other than ourselves, and this normally develops when we stop drinking our mother's milk and begin to eat foods. Women could eat a larger volume of lightly cooked dishes and in foods in order to accentuate the upward flow of Earth's power. The exchange of vibrations between 2 people begin when they talk with each other in the same room. And if their energies and biological qualities match, then there is no problem. But if they're very unlike each other, communication may be difficult, and one or both may begin to feel drained or frustrated. And the vibrational exchange increases as soon as they touch hands or fingers. Because sex is the charging and fusion of opposite energies and should make both parties feel refreshed and happy. Sex is a delicate flower nurtured by commitment to love and caring for each other. And if we deny the emotional and spiritual dimensions of our sexuality, we cut ourselves off from our true nature. And that is what where the church has totally distorted the teacher Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've said it before. He was a sexual man. He was the only spiritual teacher that fully incorporated his human sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And they have totally subverted that to make him a sexless man. And so, therefore, we've all cut ourselves off from our true natures, those who follow religion more so than others. So sexual unhappiness is the natural outcome of our spiritual blindness. Many people today are concerned about living longer, feeling better, and having more energy. So there's a continuing demand for good health advice. Still, something is missing from all of this, and this is the vital role of pleasure. Imagine the world without pleasure. Life would appear colorless and humorless. Feelings like joys, thrills, delights, ecstasy, elation, and happiness would disappear. Interest in sex and procreation would dry up, and the next generation would wait unborn.
And it's kind of
Fortunately,
happening already.
yeah, it has for humans. It has. Right? That's all the young people my daughter's age, both my daughter's age. None of them want kids. They're under pursuit. And it's not so our next generation is waiting unborn because we don't know what pleasure is.
Mm.
Fortunately, life as a whole is not like that. I can attest to that. My goat herd is constantly growing, so is my cattle herd. So are my pigs. There is a pleasure machine within our heads with several brain centers responding to gratifying stimulation. And all this didn't happen by accident. The human desire for enjoyment or pleasure evolved to enhance our survival. What better way to assure that healthy life-saving behaviors occur than to make them pleasurable? Right? We don't think about it like that. So from eating to reproduction, from attending to the environment to caring for others, pleasure guides us to better health. So through evolution, health-promoting acts are biologically connected to pleasure. Enjoying food, enjoying sex, enjoying friends, leisure, and family is the universal innate guide to health. When we recognize what is healthful by the joys of life, by pleasurable feelings, we are on the right track. Think about the most robust, full of life people you know. What makes them so vital? Well, for one thing, they don't follow the correct advice. They are keenly aware of their senses, and they relish nearly every opportunity to indulge in a sensory pleasure, like tasting savoring a tasty meal, listening to music, staring into a fire, marveling at bird songs and the fall foliage. These people don't lead bland, stress-free lives. Some even brave extreme adversity, and they all seek out new challenges and novelty. This is the other thing she said about the Kama Sutra, is it taught men that you're a warrior, you're going out to the battlefield. If you do the same thing every time, your enemy can anticipate. So do the same thing in the bedroom, change it up just a little bit for surprise and excitement. Constantly change it up. That's the Japanese concept of Kaizen.
And with food, we always also get bored with the same meal every day. We gotta spice it up.
So the way they live and envision their lives nourishes their life itself. They expect good things of the world, and they expect pleasure in much of what they do. So many robust people seem to maintain a vital sense of humor about life, enjoying a hearty laugh more often than not at their own expense. And they're deeply committed to something or someone outside of themselves. They care more for experiencing pleasure through caring for people, pets, and so on than micromanaging their blood chemistries and fiber intake based on the latest headlines. Very true. So in short, the healthiest people seem to be pleasure-loving, pleasure-seeking, pleasure-creating individuals. The connection for us, however, between pleasure and health is loaded with guilt. Yet no one tries to prove to the kiddies that they should nap, purr, and play mice to death. No one seems to need to instruct children how to play, laugh, or cuddle. Yet many of us have a surprising and deeply rooted resistance to anything that smacks of having a good time. Despite the visible excesses and conspicuous consumption of the so-called pleasure seekers, we have not really truly learned how to enjoy ourselves. Or more accurately, we have forgotten. Because with the rise of work, pleasure fell. In the 18th century, with the Industrial Revolution in full sway, the British Parliament passed laws requiring faster and faster production from domestic workers. But our ancestors did not go forth with a happy heart and joyously leap to give up control over their bodies. Historical records show that the people rebelled. They stopped work when it pleased them. They were absent more than 1/3 of the time, and they often came into work just to collect their wages. So natural urges to seek pleasure had to be subjugated to the appetites of the industrial machine. And factories then became schools for the new way of life as labor discipline was pounded into workers' heads. And then we have the concentration camps with the logo at the gates, work makes you free, right? And that's the adage I was raised with, right, basically.
Mhm.
So, however, even into the 19th century, workers continued to celebrate a weekly holiday of their creation. It was called Saint Monday, a day of leisure, shanghaied in the alehouse. One farmer filled his diary with these notes. All hands are drunk. Jacob Yentling hunting. Molders all agreed to quit work and went to the beach. Peter Cox is very drunk and went to bed. And the ship's carpenter in one New York shipyard describes the typical workday. Cakes and pastries in the early morning and again in the late morning, a trip to the grog shop by 11 for a whiskey, a big lunch at 3:30, a visit from the candy man at 5, and supper ending the workday at sundown. He recalled one worker who left for grog 10 times a day. I think we know now where the prohibition came from. The women were jealous that they weren't included in this. A cigar manufacturer said that his men worked no more than 2 or 3 hours a day. Coopers were famous for a 4-day work week, and the potters in New Jersey that were immigrants from Staffordshire were known to work in great bursts of activity and then lay off for several days. So that's kind of, I mean, if we look at the animals, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs and cats, they all work in great bursts of activity and then they lounge around and sleep. You know? So against this background, the civilizing forces of modern society began to oppose the animal aspect of human nature. So many acts of eliminating and procreating that we now consider disgusting were routine as the late 19th century. The display of intimate bodily functions, free expression of powerful emotions were accepted parts of human life. The fork, the handkerchief, or the nightgown, and the new sense of disgust about bodily functions like defecating and spitting all moved us to distrust our bodily delights. Each generation comes into the world unaware of what has come before it. We learn from our parents what to inhibit and what to exhibit. It seems perfectly normal, obvious, and almost inborn for us to avoid blowing our nose around someone, to use, or even without a handkerchief, right? Or to use eating utensils and to live collectively clothed, considerate, and cleansed. Most of us are so well socialized into a civilized routine that we don't understand or realize that civilization arises at the expense of physical and mental pleasures. I'm not saying we need to return to these behaviors, but we're just pointing out that with the preeminence of the work ethic has come an almost involuntary dismissal of healthy sensuality and play. And I absolutely agree with that, because this man I'm with now, he's totally committed himself to the work ethic, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy sensuality and play has gone by the wayside for him.
Mm-hmm.
We have so learned to delay sensual gratification and curb our passions that many of us find it difficult to indulge ourselves even when the time is right and no harm will follow. The dominion of work is so complete that it dampens even innocent pursuits. And so Udalville societies are Udalville, more pleasure, less work, uncivilized societies. Because to be civilized means you're under the dominion of the state. So, yeah. We're uncivilized, more pleasure, less work. The idea of napping, lovemaking, or going for a walk, sitting idly and watching the natural world, or just playing catch like children, or with our, just being with our children seems totally unproductive.
Mhm.
The truth is that simple pleasures actually contribute to productivity as well as to our genuine health. But we have become slaves of the work ethic, and time for pleasure has been reduced as we work longer hours. What have we gained other than ill health? Our primitive ancestors had much more time for recreation and enjoyment. A Dobe bushwoman in Australia can gather enough food in one day to feed her family for 3 days, and then she spends those next 2 days, 2 to 3 days, relaxing, napping, entertaining visitors, making love, chatting, and playing. And again, we have Otto Scharmer, who said if we had kept our wants and desires at the 1950s level, none of us would have to work more than 4 hours a day.
Mhm.
I said that to my mother a couple of years ago, and she's like, well, what would I do with my day then? It's such a shame that we can't conceive of anything but work.
Yeah.
Combining an archaic religiosity with a sensory-deprived world is to place two prisons together. Redeeming a natural and healthy sensuality requires us to buck strong historical forces. Sensuality and spirituality do not need to conflict. They are intertwined, and that is my biggest beef with all spiritual gurus, is none of them intertwine sensuality with their spirituality. Not a single one.
Well, Osho was very big on that. He was that's what got him somewhere in my, because
Right.
he was all about
How
free
many
sexuality.
women then accused him of sexual impropriety, or did they?
Well, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a fan of him actually, but by any means. But the way I saw from for what I saw his documentary and I saw a few other things, and I read a couple of his books without being a big fan of him. And I think that what got him into trouble was the fact that he did not sleep with what he considered the secretary, this woman who seemingly was wanting to sleep with him, like that was her biggest desire. And she did not, and he did not want to.
Right.
And then she I mean, but there was other reasons too why it all came down like it did.
Yeah, he was pretty, yeah, but you're right. I think I agree with you. I think he was probably one of the only spiritual gurus that ever combined
But
both.
that is why a lot of people, that's why he picked up so much on people, because he really freed them in that sense. Like I mean, the book I read, I was like, wow, somebody, because it was unheard of. Nobody ever would tell you that it's spiritually, that sex is spiritual.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. So we rely on medical priests and soothsayers to advise us on how to achieve the good life. We are led to believe that health arises from the pleasure-denying regimens of a balanced diet and all other recipes for clean living. Most of us are phobic about having fun. Researchers have focused on lifelong drinking of alcohol, looking for more bad repercussions than looking for benefits of alcohol usage. They also dwell on the dangers of sexually transmitted diseases and no time on the health benefits of a pleasurable sex life. Yeah. We have thousands of articles on trauma, physical abuse, and pain, but hardly any sources on the benefits of touching each other.
Yeah.
Every human being possesses an effective internal health maintenance system that is guided by pleasure. A psychologist more than 3 decades ago gave laboratory animals levers to press that delivered small amounts of electrical stimulation to the area in the brain known as the limbic system. These animals would give up drinking and even sex to continue pressing these magic buttons that can stimulate at their brain's pleasure center. They would stimulate it so much they would fall asleep from enjoyment and then wake up and start it all over again. And there's some studies that show that maybe the limbic system is created by the male chromosomes, the male complement of chromosomes. There are now lots of studies that show just how important pleasure is to our lives, and they show that we are healthier and live longer when we enjoy sensual pleasures. There are several ways to activate pleasure in the brain. One is direct electrical stimulation, and another one is drugs. These are both artificial methods. So there are also natural channels of pleasure involving sensory stimulation, such as good taste, sounds, smells, and sights. And we can also activate pleasure through mental means with positive, optimistic messages from the higher cortical centers of our brain that can also stimulate the limbic system. So the first channel responds to sensual or felt pleasures, and the second channel is the way we judge the world, ourselves, and our tendencies toward optimism. So robust, healthy people are skilled at keeping both channels operating, flooding their brains and bodies with pleasurable sensations. So we should really become healthy people by taking advantage of our innate biological pleasure-seeking capacities to replenish the mind with pleasurable sensations. And I have 3 kitties who make sure I do that at least 10 times a day. They're like, love me. Did you watch the video I sent you about the cats, about cat purring?
Yeah. I've seen many of those.
That was the first time I saw that. So I had already been relishing purr therapy with the kitties. Now I really relish it. So, so the virtues of coming to your senses. We humans don't just relish nature. We relish nature, and we don't just eat it. Every animal scours the world for sources of pleasure. And human beings, too, originally evolved to find pleasure in sensory experience. The sweetness of a peach, the swelling satisfaction of sex, the peaceful flow of a river, and the view stretching from mountaintop all the way to the horizon. Our human world has changed drastically, however, from the one we were fashioned to sense. And so the sensual pleasures we were primed to receive are really blunted. And many of us, the vast majority of us, are not getting even close to our minimum daily requirement of sensual pleasure. And sensual pleasures are vital to our health. Our senses do more than send alarms about sporadic hazards. They shepherd us to agreeable experiences that increase survival. Smell and taste incite us to seek a wide spectrum of taste sensations, encouraging us to eat a variety of foods with the full range of essential nutrients. Pleasurable touch and sexual sensations make procreation more likely, and sensory stimulation activates brain pleasure centers, evoking a sense of well-being and positive mood. So, you're sitting in a coffee shop watching a couple across from you. He leans forward and gently touches her arm. She smiles. He brushes a wisp of hair off her forehead. She gets up from the table to go use the bathroom, and her hand rests on his shoulder. He hugs her. In the past hour, this couple has touched no less than 150 times. So where are you? Are you in England, France, the USA, or Puerto Rico?
Maybe Puerto Rico.
You got it. In the 1960s, a psychologist did a study on how many times people touch each other by going and sitting in cafes and watching. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, they touched 180 times an hour.
Okay.
In Paris, 110 times per hour. In Gainesville, Florida, only twice per hour. And in London, the men and women never touched.
Okay.
Do we know now why Brits are so stodgy?
And I bet after COVID, everything changed everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this was in the 1960s when free love was coming, right? Was about
Imagine that.
psychologists. Yeah, it's so that was normal.
Mm-hmm.
Psychologists spent time on the beaches and playgrounds of Greece, the Soviet Union, and the United States, observing physical contact between young children and their adult caregivers. When the adult caregivers were chasing and or punishing the children, all three countries scored equally. Let me say that again. When they were chasing and punishing the children, all scored equally. When it came to soothing, holding, and playing, the American children enjoyed fewer fondles. So what's the American dream? Don't fucking touch each other and work hard to make money. One physician described the no touching epidemic that is so part of our armoring. He said that the no touch epidemic symptoms include a feeling of loneliness and abstraction from one's fellows, morbid doubts of other people's loyalty and feelings of insecurity, a fear of unpopularity and inhibition of feelings, unusual reaction to others when one is inadvertently touched, guilt feelings on touching another person, frigidity and loss of tenderness and the ability to comfort people in distress, a hesitancy and doubt when confronting people in pain, a strange and inhibited and cold attitude towards strangers and foreigners. Really? We wonder why we're putting everyone that doesn't look like us into concentration camps. Frigidity, loss of tenderness, and the ability to comfort people in distress. A hesitancy and doubt. Solitary. Yeah, I already said that when confronting people in pain. Solitary toilet habits. A tendency to keep babies in their prams or their strollers. And young children glued to their desks. Horror at the sight of couples in public display of affection. An inability to communicate with people standing nearby in public places. And so many of that register with the way I was raised. Much. An antagonism to massage as a form of therapy. Shyness, introversion. I grew up very shy and introverted. A tendency to divorce. An incomprehension of people's needs. Masturbation over sexual intercourse. Loss of interest in tango, dancing, an exaggerated interest in no-touch techniques and dancing, and a no dancing period. I mean, dancing is not allowed in the religious world. Not. Period. Not. If you're spiritual, if you're a truly religious person going to heaven, you don't dance. A preference for television or one's phone rather than conversation. We have lots of touch metaphors in our language, and yet it is so disembodied in our daily life. An adequate dose of touching is vital to health. Animals know this instinctively. Mother rats stroke their pups vigorously with their tongue, and this releases growth hormone and activates a growth enzyme in the pup's brain and other vital organs. The goats, the mothers do it constantly. Right? They stimulate them constantly. And when the pups were removed from this physical contact with their mothers, in their early days of life, their growth slowed and the biochemical growth factors plummeted. In the 1920s, a psychologist promoted his theory that maternal touch spoils the child, and I was raised with that. During the early 19th century, if a child was separated from its parents, it was sent to a foundling institution where there were no touch, right? And a study of the institution showed that in all but one, every single baby under 2 died. What was the difference with the one? Well, they had an older, overweight woman who would touch the babies, and they lived. Our skin speaks to our hearts and our hearts respond. Our skin communicates much more than the pleasurable sensations of touch. We also have sensors for temperatures, and most of us like to get hot. We seek out warm, sunny climates, and we don't hesitate to strip down and get into a sauna or hot tub, but we don't like to strip down and get into an icy cold lake. A study done in Czechoslovakia demonstrated that sitting in a sauna for 30 minutes doubled the beta endorphin levels in the blood. Natural pain response, which is our natural pain, our natural morphine, right? Our beta endorphins are natural morphine. The heat also depletes our body stores of stress hormone and increases serotonin. A hot bath does the same. My favorite place to be is a hot bathtub. So, touch, heat, right? Next, looking at life. Flooding our brains with rich natural stimulation helps us recover from surgery, tolerate pain, manage stress, and attain well-being. Focusing attention on pleasurable sights and sounds seems to have a relaxing effect. When we start to think about something, no matter the subject, the body initially becomes activated or aroused and tenses. Blood pressure increases, heart rate speeds up, and palms become sweaty. But when we focus on our attention on events outside of ourselves, on external sights and sounds, all that changes and we relax. So, you're sitting in a darkened room. At moments you feel intense, spine-tingling thrills and you shiver with pleasure. What's the source of these sensations? Well, you would be in a study at Stanford University responding to music. Because music is an intense, healthy pleasure. And it's been found that some of us find music more thrilling than anything else, including sex. And part of the thrill of music comes from the release of beta endorphins. And one study showed that moving to an even rhythm made muscles flex and extend more smoothly. Smelling life. Without sense of smell, we would be in great danger. Smell helps us to judge distance, location, and danger, and without a sense of smell, others might react strangely to us. We'd miss a universe of sensual pleasures like the aromas of freshly baked bread or newly brewed coffee. Our food would be virtually tasteless because 80% of the flavor comes from the volatile fragrances piped up the back of the nose. And finally, without a lover's bouquet to arouse our interest, sexual desire would wane. Smell is perhaps the most ignored and underappreciated of the human senses. Though olfactory experiences may be fleeting, their effect on us is sustained and unforgettable. Odors converse directly with the part of our brain that controls predictions and the stories of our emotions. So scent can mold our moods. So we ought to be always expanding our olfactory vocabulary, not with the horrific fake scents they're making, but with other things. But most of us move through the world oblivious to sensual information. But watch a dog enter the backyard. Watch a cat exploring the mysterious universe of olfactory delights and distastes. Animals produce odors to communicate, but compared with a bloodhound, of course, human olfactory abilities seem paltry, but we should not be so quick to dismiss our sensory talent because each of us is born with our own smell blueprint. By becoming more aware of our noses, we can begin to deliberately use this sensory capability for our pleasure and better health. Sex is strongly linked with smell, and we also produce and release our own pheromones or sensual body talk. Some human pheromones can act as olfactory signals, which modify over months women's reproductive cycles. In an intriguing experiment, several women were identified who would drive their roommates' menstrual cycles, only they weren't roommates. Samples of perspiration were collected from the donor women by cotton pads placed under their arms. These pads were then wiped across the upper lips of those other women, their roommates, 3 times a week. However, they never came in contact with their roommates, but within 5 months, the recipients had shifted their menstrual cycle in synchronicity with their drivers.
Mhm.
Men also have a strong effect on menstrual cycles. Researchers have found that women who have sex with men at least once a week are more likely to have regular menstrual cycles and a much more benign menopause than a celibate woman who has infrequent intercourse.
Mhm.
The crucial element, aside from the sexual intercourse, appears to be exposure to the aromatic chemicals secreted in a man's normal body odors. And we work so hard to subvert that.
Mhm.
Right? When a woman receives these chemicals by smell or skin absorption, even though she may not consciously notice them, they automatically improve her physiology.
Mhm.
The male chemicals, which are discharged from special sweat glands in the armpits and around the nipples and genitals, cross from man to woman in intimate sex contact. While both female and male pheromones can signal changes in reproductive cycles, their modes of transmission differs. The female pheromones diffuse through the air and are strong enough to synchronize menstrual cycles. The male pheromone requires intimate contact. So here's the bottom line. Women need men.
Mhm. We all need each other.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Testosterone is the hormone primarily responsible for the sex drive in both males and females. Female testosterone levels are highest around the middle of her menstrual cycle when ovulation takes place. And it's in this peak of testosterone that causes her to be more sexually aroused and also makes her more likely to conceive. Some
Mhm.
women produce up to 10 times more testosterone than others, and these women tend to make love more often and enjoy it more. They also tend to have cheerful dispositions and form relationships more easily. So testosterone may also help men and women bond together as a couple.
Mhm.
Sex encompasses all the senses and especially a touching experience. In one study, married couples monitored sexual intercourse and arguments on a daily basis. They dubbed the result the F index, the frequency of fornication minus the frequency of fights. The higher the F index, the happier the marriage. So for instance, if a couple fights 10 times a month but makes love 12 times a month, their F index would be a 2+. While if they fight 10 times a month and make love only 8 times, then it would be a -2.
Yeah.
So it would be a really fun experiment in increasing our marital happiness to see if we could increase our marital happiness by making love more than we fight.
Mhm.
And finally, women who have intercourse 3 times or more per month experience less vaginal atrophy during menopause than those who don't.
Hmm.
So sexual pleasure is a very important.
We don't know how biologically important it is, huh?
Yeah. I mean, this is the first, right? Encountered this. The testosterone.
Mhm.
Concept. Right. And so I'm going to start experimenting with some testosterone and see where that takes me. But yeah, there's so much
Mhm.
to it. So next week we're going to continue on with some more. We're going to look at eating so we went from the first week where Michio Kushi talked about, he was a macrobiotic guy,
Mhm.
talked about the yin and the yang of food.
Mhm. Yeah, you
Now
showed
we're
us
going to talk.
how food is
We're going-
strongly related to our drive, to our.
Well, now
Even
we're
though-
going to talk about how food is related to what neurotransmitters are produced in our body.
Okay.
So we go beyond the yin and the yang to produce what neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's going to get a little more scientific. To say something, I mean, meaning like in the language
A
that's
little
going
bit
to
more
be
complex,
yeah.
right? Goes from just yin and yang to the neurotransmitters.
Already, so this is
And
very
then that won't take the whole time. So then we're going to start on the pleasure commandments.
okay. So
We'll
what's
probably start with the pleasure commandments of man for women, and then we'll go to the pleasure commandments of women for men.
okay? So should I title that next conversation?
Yeah,
Next
the
teaching?
pleasure the 10 pleasure commandments.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
So
Sec-
yeah,
Alrighty. So I hope this has been a very interesting journey for everyone, and so I don't want to drag it on any longer, and because it's all there, it's all been said, and you know now all the things that we need to look at if we want to be free. It's not just the money, it's not just the sovereignty, it's not just the spirituality. We also have to do the whole trip, the whole
Yeah.
journey.
it has to all be intertwined.
So please join us next week, and please let us know if you are here and alive, giving it a like and a subscribe, and we'll see each other next week. Also, if you want to check out our website, alohaini.living.com, just one A between Aloha and Aini. That's where you'll find more information and how to join this freedom movement, this Relovution. So welcome everyone to the Relovution.
And the forming of Idleville, more pleasure, less work societies, uncivilized societies.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll see each other next week. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.